Good morning. I forgot what day. Thursday. It's Thursday. Anyway, I the other day had a chance to sit and talk with one of my patients while she was waiting for her ride home. She was waiting for her stride bus to show up, and she was talking about her grandmother and her mother. And now this woman is, what did she say, 85, 88, something like that. And her grandmother, she talked about how what a tough woman she was. And as she's telling me about the things that they did, the things that were normal for them, and she said, can you imagine living like that today? And I'm like, I really can't. There's a lot of people out there that want to get back to that. They want to get back to the homesteading, growing your own food, raising your own food, so you don't have to depend on the grocery store. You don't have to depend on the government. You don't have to depend on anybody. You can do it yourself. They would grow, of course, you grow something in a garden and you think, oh my gosh, I've got all of this extra. What do I do with it? Well, it just got dark. But you see, okay, I've got all this extra stuff. What do I do with it? Well, you can, they canned it. They put it in a jar and added whatever it was that they did. And, usually I think it was just water. But, they would can it. But they didn't have pressure canners. So they would can it with a hot water bath. Get your pot out, your big pot, and do your hot water bath. They would bake their bread every day. They would, she talked about her grandmother, how her grandmother would have breakfast ready when everybody got up. I think she said she had 7 kids. So here's this lady, 7 children, all probably like 10 years old and younger. She's got breakfast on the table for her husband. She bakes the bread every day. She has, I'm not sure if they did lunch. She didn't really say anything about lunch, but then, she would get all the washing done, and the washing was done with a washboard, and the drying had to be done, on the line. But yeah, she'd be out there with the washboard, washing her clothes. And then she would, doing all of the not just the cooking stuff, but the washing, the cleaning, all of that stuff with very, as we would call, primitive things. They made their own soaps, they made their own cleansers, things like that. She's doing all of this, making sure that dinner is ready. She's going out tending the garden. That's her job. She's canning, she's preserving, she's making jellies, and she's making all these different things, and she's making sure that everybody's got what they need. Come hay time, her husband would be going out with a couple neighbors or friends or something, and getting the hay. They'd be cutting the hay, and I don't think they baled it, but they probably pitchforked it up onto the trailer or something that was hauled by horses. So they would go out and do that. She would go out and help. She would make sure they had breakfast, and then everybody would go out to the field. Then they would come in. At that time, she did say something about a lunch. They would come in for lunch, and she would make sure they had lunch. And then she would go back out with the guys, help them until come back in and have dinner. And she would, in the process, be making all of this stuff. There's no turn the crock pot on low and let it go all day. No. And their stoves, they weren't electric. They probably weren't gas. I'm guessing they were wood stoves. I've loved those. Have you seen those where it's like the big box has got like a fireplace in there, and you just fill it up and you can bake in there, you can do all that stuff. You can cook on the top. I don't know how you would manage the time. How you would manage the, okay, it's at this temperature for, baking at 325 for 45 minutes. How would you know? So, just things that they did, plus she found all the time to crochet, to knit. She made blankets and clothes and socks and all that stuff. I guess socks is clothes. But she made all of that stuff herself. You know, and the guys, I mean, they were out working hard. You know, they didn't have the machinery that they have now. You know, I mean, going out there cutting the fields with the horses and the plows, they had to get the horses all harnessed up. Have you ever seen a harness for a horse? There's more straps on that thing than, God, it's incredible. And how to know what goes where and get the horse to stand still, and it's crazy. Anyway, you know, so they had all of these different implements that they had to hook the horses up to and pull, or oxen, I suppose. But it was like all of this stuff that they had to do. And then I look at my life and I'm like, you know, I just don't have the time to cook. I don't have. Did they? They seem to survive. Her grandmother, I guess, had the flu one time. She was dealing with it really bad. She had high fever and this and that. She still went out and helped the men with the hay. She came back in, made sure they had something to eat. She laid down on the cool floor and laid there until they were ready to go back out. And then she got up, she went back out with them. This is the kind of people that we come from. These are our ancestors. These are the people that we should have been learning from. You know, some of these inventions are great. I mean, yeah, do I want to go out and walk behind a horse and plow a field? Actually, I kind of do. But, I mean, the time, who has the time to do that anymore? And we have filled our lives with so many things that it's like, what are we doing? You know, what kind of fulfillment are we getting from the stuff that we're doing? You know, I mean, do you feel really all that fulfilled and proud of yourself when you go to the grocery store? I mean, I guess if you walk out under $100, then yeah, maybe. But it's like, you know, you don't know who grew your food. You don't know, you know, where your animal lived before you ate it. You don't know any of that stuff. You know, you don't know what pissed on your veggies before you brought them home. You know, it's just one of those things that you just don't know. And it's nice to have that feeling of accomplishment that, you know, you did this, you grew this, you harvested, you canned it or you preserved it, you cooked it, you ate it, and you're sustained from it. You know, I mean, how cool is that? That's really cool. And I mean, that's why people want to start to get back to that, because it is really cool. You know, is it cheaper? Probably in the long run. I mean, to get started, it probably isn't. I mean, I know it's not cheaper to get started with the chickens, but, you know, once we start getting more eggs, I mean, I shouldn't say that. We've already got way more than we could use, but, you know, now I got to start learning how to preserve eggs. There is a way. There is a way. I just have to learn how to do it. But, you know, there's just so many things that we take for granted. You know, indoor plumbing. Yeah. Yeah, she said it was completely normal to have your outhouse. It was completely normal to have a well outside. You know, that was completely normal. To go outside in the middle of the 20 below weather to go to the bathroom. You know, they usually, I'm sure, had like night pots or something that they would use at night, and then somebody would have to go, usually mom probably would have to go and empty the waste, probably dump it down the toilet outside, you know, and then rinse that out, bring it back in, there it is for tomorrow. You know, you think about it and it's like, how did these people survive? But yet her grandmother was over 100 years old when she passed away. You know, her mother, you know, this lady's mom, you know, I mean, she lived till she was, I think, close to 100. So, I mean, these people are living these long lives, and you look at the stuff that we've got today to help with that, and we think that it's, oh man, we don't have to work so hard now, so we're going to live longer. Maybe not. Maybe we need to start working harder. You know, maybe that physical labor is what keeps us going. I don't know. You know, when I think about retirement, I think about how cool it would be to be able to just get up in the morning. You know, I have in my head this beautiful summer morning where it's not too hot, there's no bugs. You know, you get up in the morning, it's say 6 o'clock, sun is shining, the wind is breezy, it's nice. You sit outside, you have your cup of coffee. And then you take your time, you get dressed, you get up, and you go out and you check on your chickens, make sure they got their food and water, let them out, collect the eggs. And then you come back in, you wash the eggs up, put them in the fridge, or you just leave them unwashed and put them on the shelf, whatever you need to do. And then you go back out and you go through your garden and just see how everything survived the night. You go out and you check things. Okay, these are ripe. I'll pick these for, oh, you know what? We'll have these for dinner. You know, you go out, you check your garden and you do that. Or if you have animals, you know, like we want to do, we've got the chickens, but we want to get a little bit farther into it. You know, we want to do goats and again. We want to do goats. We want to, eventually, we want to have a couple, not mini cows, but the small breeds of cows. Just a couple of them. We don't need, you know, 10 or 15, but, you know, 3 would be good. Maybe 2 heifers and a bull. That sounds like a comedy show. 2 heifers and a bull. Anyway, so, you know, we want to get into that, and that way then we would have, you know, we would have the goats and the cows for milk, for meat. We want to raise turkeys again because they were fun. They really were fun. The most adorable little babies. I mean, their eyes were like this, and they were just so cute. They looked like those little cartoon things. They were so cute. But the turkeys, you know, when they got bigger, they were fun because then you'd holler out, "Hey, boys!" and they'd all go, they'd all gobble. It was so cute. But anyway, I digress. So we want to get, you know, livestock. We want to raise some for consumption because, you know, yeah, we hunt. Well, I should say it's more Bill that hunts, but you know, I can. I don't necessarily like to, but I can, and I know I can because I've done it. And we butcher our own. We, you know, are learning more and more every year about how to use more and more of the animal. Because you hate to see things go to waste. You know, I don't like doing, I'm not going to go as crazy as like the Native Americans did back in the day and use like the stomach for a water bag or for a cooking vessel. You know, no. But, you know, I want to know how to use all the different parts. You know, what can we use? You know, can we use the shoulder blades? Can we use, you know, the bones? The bones in the leg we freeze for the dog, and she chews on them, you know, in the summer outside. But, you know, it's one of those things that we just, yeah. in a perfect world, that would be my retirement. Just enjoying life, taking care of the animals, hanging out at home with the garden, and you know, playing with all the animals, the baby animals when we have them, to replenish the stock. You know, and that's, but it would be on my time. It wouldn't have to be, oh my gosh, I got to get this done so I can get to work, or, oh, I got to get this done so that I can, you know, I got to get home so I can get this stuff done because it's now 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever, and it's getting dark and I got to get home and get all this stuff. You know, if I had the time, it would be so enjoyable and I would love it. So that's kind of my thoughts on retirement. But, you know, what I want to do in retirement is a very watered down, very easy version of what our ancestors did for real. You know, that's how they made their living. That's how they made their life. That's how they lived. And I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I do. Anyway, I'm blabbing because it's cool out and my seat is nice and warm and I don't want to get out. But anyway, I'm at work, so I gotta go in. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Love you. Bye.